The monkey in the pit. The chains weren't necessary, but they were the point. Lieutenant Mason Rourke stood at the threshold of the arena, wrists bound in thick, obsidian cuffs. A dozen species filled the viewing decks above, scaled, feathered, kite and armored, leaning forward with mocking anticipation. They had come not for a fight, but a public culling. A spectacle. The primitive mammal from the Terran backwater, thrown into the pit like an offering to remind the galaxy of its hierarchy. The floor beneath him vibrated. Not from the weight of the gathered aliens, but from the pulse of the Arena Prime itself, a floating coliseum in orbit over Xeron 5. Black sand, scattered ruins, jagged cliffs, the terrain stretched for kilometers in each direction, designed by war artists to be poetic in its cruelty. The staging ground for blood and honor. Above, a voice boomed in 32 languages, one after another. Combat Trial 971. Humanity v. The Honor Bound begins now. Rourke blinked once. No expression. Inside his skull, something stirred. Valkyrie online. Neural sync established. Biolevels nominal. Emotion suppression, 12% drift. Thought they'd open with fireworks. He muttered under his breath. Valkyrie, his embedded combat AI, responded in that cool, almost sarcastic tone. Fireworks require respect. You currently rank below atmospheric fungus. Chains dropped. Rourke rolled his shoulders once, letting the weight fall off his spine. Across the arena, 100 figures stood in formation. Different races. Unified only by arrogance. Towering Krell warbringers with vibroaxes. Lit-hid stalkers crouched on four limbs, blades flicking. Ktharn priests bearing spiked scepters and venom-tipped robes. They all watched the man in the sand, a lone figure in worn combat boots and a plain gray uniform. Tavkor, the Krell general leading the honor-bound, stepped forward. He stood almost 3 meters tall, his armor plated with ceremonial bone and molten alloys. He raised a clawed hand for silence. This is your champion? His voice boomed without translation. You insult the Concord. This soft thing. This ape. The arena laughed. A few species clicked their mandibles in what passed for amusement. Rourke slowly looked up at the general. Hey, Tav, you always this chatty before you lose a limb, or is today special? A hush. Then confusion. He bent down, unlacing his boots. What's he doing? An alien ambassador hissed. Tavkor growled. He mocks us. Rourke stood barefoot now, toes curling into the black dust. Grounding himself. Sensing. Breathing. Environmental scan complete. Wind direction, 6 kilometers per hour from North Quadrant. Structural weak points mapped. Enemy heat signatures, all 100 accounted for. 12 primary threats. The horn sounded. A deep, ancient tone. It echoed through the arena like a summons to gods. The fight had begun. Rourke didn't move. Not at first. The honor-bound advanced in perfect sync, armored, confident, methodical. They formed a semicircle, expecting an easy enclosure. The humans stood still at the center, unarmed, unmoving. Then motion. Not toward them. Away. Rourke sprinted sideways, vanishing behind a fallen monolith before any of them could react. Tavkor roared, Coward! Stand and face honor! But Rourke was already gone. Tactical mode engaged. Phase 1, disorient. Divide. Bleed. Let them chase, Rourke thought. He was already 3 levels ahead. Behind the monolith was a tunnel, once a part of the arena's drainage system. It led beneath the sand, emerging behind a crumbled tower. He moved fast, silent. Years of recon behind enemy lines had shaped him into more than a soldier. He was a ghost when he chose to be. Up top, the first wave advanced cautiously now. They expected a berserker charge, a scream, a futile attempt at glory. Instead, silence. Then, the first kill. A lit-hid scout, sent wide to flank, stepped over what looked like a pile of loose sand. It snapped under her foot, the buried end of a broken spear. It pierced straight through her throat. She gurgled, collapsed, tried to blink in confusion. Rourke didn't wait. He dropped from above, a shard of alien metal in his grip, and finished her before her eyes could process what had gone wrong. 99. The others paused. Rourke's voice crackled into the alien comms frequency. Now playing, Fortunate Son. Courtesy of Earth's greatest hits. The music blared across the arena, a human war song, ancient and angry. It was psychological warfare. But that was only layer 1. Valkyrie. Let's stir the pot. He triggered the next phase. The arena lighting stuttered. A dozen spotlights blinked in erratic patterns, shifting shadows across the terrain. The aliens, unused to optical deception, hesitated. Some drew their weapons tighter. Others fanned out, breaking formation without meaning to. Rourke moved again. He set traps. Rigged stones. Triggered collapses. Each strike was surgical, efficient. A dart through the eye here, a trip into the spike pit there. He wasn't a warrior in their sense. He was something worse. A predator. By the time 5 more were down, panic began to bloom in the ranks. Tavkor slammed his staff into the ground. Regroup! He is trickery! He is dishonor! No one answered. Because they were starting to understand. This was not a duel. This wasn't honor. This was something ancient, primal. This was survival. Rourke crouched above them now, hidden in a broken tower's shadows, covered in dust and blood. He whispered into the comms. That's 6. Who wants to be lucky number 7? Above, in the VIP tier, Earth's envoy leaned forward and whispered to her second. They're watching a human at war. Not one bred for show, but one forged in extinction. The second shivered. Tavkor bellowed again, but it was already unraveling. Unity collapsed. Species reverted to instinct. Some tried to retreat and regroup. Others charged in rage. No cohesion. No strategy. Rourke smiled grimly. Valkyrie. 92 left. This'll be fun. And just like that, he vanished into the dust again. The monkey in the pit was no clown. He was the apex predator they never saw coming. And the show had only just begun. 100 graves. They tried to adapt. After the 8th body dropped without a sound, the honor-bound split into squads of 10, each led by a senior warrior. They called it the Circle Hunt formation, used for cornering razorbacks on the ice moons of Varnak. Rourke wasn't a beast to trap. He was the storm that cracked the trap open from inside. In the far west quadrant of the arena, 2 insected Vex soldiers crept across a jagged ridge. One held a sensor rod, the other covered their flank. Their 6 eyes twitched with every flicker of dust. They didn't see the wire. Rourke had strung it taut between broken slabs, low to the ground, barely visible. The first Vex leg caught it, triggering a spring-loaded spike that slammed through its carapace. The second one turned just in time to watch a shard of obsidian bury itself between his mandibles. Rourke didn't wait for the fall. He was already gone, melting into the rocks. Valkyrie. 87 remaining. Squad Bravo collapsing. Eastern flank blind. He answered with a nod barely audible. Breathing steady. Every muscle calm. His body was already bruised, his left forearm bleeding from a graze, but he moved like a shadow stitched into the sand. They had underestimated chaos. Rourke had grown up in the ruins of Detroit after the collapse. Half of his childhood was running, hiding, waiting for gangs to fall asleep before stealing their food. The other half was war. By the time Earth joined the Galactic Concord, men like him had been fighting for survival long before first contact. To him, this wasn't a performance. It was Tuesday. A thunderclap echoed across the arena as Tavkor's lieutenant, a colossal Maug named Gorik, slammed his dual hammers into the stone floor. Come out, human! Rourke watched from above, perched atop the tower ruins where he'd set his next trap. A dozen warriors gathered near Gorik, drawing courage from his presence. Good. That made them predictable. He flicked his wrist. The charge detonated under Gorik's feet. The ancient tower, already weakened by time, gave way beneath the Maug's weight. The stone collapsed, taking the hammer-wielding brute and 4 others with it in a deafening crash. Rourke jumped as the debris exploded upward in dust. Mid-air, he twisted, landing behind the last 2 stragglers from the squad. A blade in each hand, alien steel, taken from earlier kills. One quick slice across the throat. The second alien turned too late. Rourke jammed the other blade through its ribs. Valkyrie. 81. Central cluster destabilized. Let's break them. He didn't mean kill. Not yet. Not physically. He meant morale. He climbed to the highest tower, right in view of the audience stands. For the first time, he let them see him. Covered in gray dust, streaked with dried alien blood, barefoot, holding 2 mismatched blades, he looked like death made manifest. He raised one blade overhead, then drove it into the stone beside him like a flag. Silence swept the arena. Then Valkyrie activated the audio channel again. Now playing, Ride of the Valkyries. The string screamed. The audience froze. The remaining 80 combatants looked up, disoriented by the human music. To them, it was howling chaos. To Rourke, it was rhythm. He moved with it. He hit from behind. 2 in the neck with thrown shards. 1 trampled underfoot when he kicked a pillar loose. Another group was blinded when he redirected sunlight with a mirror shard into their visor slits. Tavkor snarled, watching his warriors fall like cattle. Enough! We hunt him properly! He descended into the arena, flanked by 6 Krell elites, each nearly as large as him, armored, clawed, burning with fury. Unlike the others, they didn't speak. They didn't posture. They simply moved. This was different. Valkyrie. Warning. Tactical risk elevated. Recommend strategic retreat. Too late. They were already here. The Krell moved as one unit, cornering Rourke inside a cratered trench. Blades out. Snarling low. This was the first real challenge. He had to shed cleverness for precision. He backed against the wall. No exits. Tavkor stepped forward. No more tricks, human. No more games. You sure? Rourke said. Then, Valkyrie light. Blinding flashbangs erupted from the trench walls. In the half-second they blinked, Rourke dove between 2 of them, rolled, grabbed the fallen blade of a lit-hid corpse, and drove it upward into one Krell's jaw. The beast screamed, thrashing wildly, knocking its own teammate to the ground. Rourke didn't stop. He used the momentum to pivot, grabbed a fallen shield, and used it to deflect the second Krell's blade. He rammed the edge of the shield into the alien's throat, cracking cartilage. Still 3 more. They closed in. Rourke was bleeding now, ribs cracked, vision blurred. But his hands didn't slow. He baited the next strike, ducked, swept the Krell's legs with the shield, then stabbed upward. A clean kill. The final 2 came at once. Valkyrie. Time for a misdirection. Rourke activated the micro-beacon he'd hidden inside the corpse earlier. It lit up the trench like a flare. All sensors pinged on it. In the moment of distraction, Rourke somersaulted past them, dropping a proximity charge behind. Boom. 1 dead. 1 maimed. Only Tavkor remained. The general stood still, unreadable. 37, Rourke said. You lose track, or are you just saving your breath? Tavkor lunged. Faster than expected. His claws grazed Rourke's shoulder, tearing skin. But the human twisted inside the grab, elbowed him hard in the temple, and escaped the clinch. He rolled backward and tossed a blade. Tavkor caught it mid-air, sneering. You think a knife? It's yours. The blade exploded in his hand, knocking the general off balance. Rourke didn't finish the fight. Not yet. Instead, he backed into the ruins, body breaking, breath ragged. Valkyrie. You're at 63%. Bleeding heavily. Heart rate spiking. I'm fine. You're not. But they're worse. He paused beneath a stone arch, blood trailing behind him. He looked across the battlefield. Bodies everywhere. Aliens trembling in their hiding spots. Some refused to move. Others screamed gibberish into their comms. This wasn't a trial anymore. It was a massacre. He grabbed a stick, dipped it in alien blood, and scrawled something into the stone wall. Asterisk asterisk 100 entered. 1 walks. Asterisk asterisk. He turned to the arena cameras, wiped sweat and dust from his face, and whispered. Now playing, Extinction. Valkyrie. 57 remain. They won't survive the night. Rourke smiled. A slow, quiet grin. The kind that came when a man finally became the nightmare his enemies whispered about. The show wasn't over. It had only just reached intermission. Dawn never came to Xeron 5. The sky above the arena remained a deep, hostile orange. Dust storms gathered at the edges of the dome, clawing against the reinforced glass like something ancient trying to get in. But inside, the storm was already here. Only 7 of them remained. The other 93 were scattered across the battlefield, burned, broken, buried. Some still twitched, others didn't. What was left of the honor-bound had gone silent. No more shouting. No more declarations. Just the low hum of fear. And one human, moving through the aftermath like the last ghost of a forgotten war. Lieutenant Mason Rourke crouched in the shadow of a collapsed stone column, right shoulder dislocated, ribs screaming with every breath. His shirt was half gone, soaked in blood, his and theirs. But his eyes were sharp. Clear. Cold. Valkyrie whispered in his ear. 4 stationary. 2 mobile. 1 unaccounted. Proximity, 300 meters and closing. Let him come, Rourke muttered, snapping his shoulder back into place with a grunt. It's time. He stood, swaying slightly, then limped across the cracked stone toward the center of the arena. The ground was scorched and torn, marked by claw prints and blood trails. Spears stuck out of the sand like broken teeth. The music had stopped. No more psychological games. That phase was over. This part was personal. A slow, deliberate crunch of armored boots echoed from across the ruins. General Tavkor emerged from behind a jagged wall of debris, scorched and battered but standing tall. His ceremonial armor was cracked, claws bloodied, half his face burned from the earlier explosion. But his eyes were still full of hate. You've made your point, ape, he growled. But the trial's not done. Rourke took a slow breath. Didn't say it was. They stood across from each other, no crowd noise now, just the hum of dying electronics and the flickering light of shattered torches. No tricks? Tavkor asked, almost hopeful. No tricks, Rourke said. Just you and me. The general snarled and charged. He was fast, faster than anything that size had a right to be. Rourke barely dodged the first swipe, felt claws rake across his ribs again. Pain flared, but he didn't flinch. He pivoted and slammed his elbow into Tavkor's knee, forcing a stumble. The general recovered quickly, swinging his massive fist down like a hammer. Rourke blocked with a forearm and twisted, letting the force carry them both sideways. He fell with Tavkor, rolled, then struck the side of the general's neck with a knife-hand blow. The alien roared and threw him off. Rourke hit the stone hard, coughing blood. Valkyrie. You're at 42%. Cardiac stress approaching failure threshold. Not yet, he gasped. He climbed to his feet again. Tavkor stood panting, spitting dark blood into the dust. You fight like no other, the general admitted. We fight like humans, Rourke corrected. Another charge. This time, Rourke didn't dodge. He met the strike head-on, catching Tavkor's arm under his own and using the momentum to redirect the beast into a shattered wall. The structure collapsed with the impact. Rourke fell to one knee. He couldn't breathe. Everything ached. But he pushed up again. From the wreckage, Tavkor pulled himself out, staggering. No longer furious, now cautious. He watched Rourke, puzzled. You should have died. Rourke limped forward. We don't die easy. We adapt. You thought this was about honor. We've never been about that. He stopped a few paces away. Blood dripped from his chin. You came to display dominance. I came to survive. There's a difference. Tavkor narrowed his eyes. Then finish it. If you're the predator. I'm not done yet. Rourke raised a small, blinking sphere from his pocket and held it up to the sky. Above, the Concorde's orbital relay flared to life. Dozens of alien dignitaries watching the trial from their floating observation decks leaned forward, unsure. What is that? Tavkor asked. Valkyrie. Uploading complete. All combat data transferred. Open broadcast initiated. Rourke tossed the device to the ground. Insurance. You called this a trial. We recorded every second. Every scream. Every failure. Every corpse. The general's face tightened. And now? Rourke asked, voice lower. Now the galaxy knows. Not just about me. About all of us. He took another step. You thought humans were animals. Fragile. Inferior. But we grew up surrounded by extinction. Everything we are, every trick, every kill, every broken bone, is evolution's answer to survival. Tavkor looked around the empty arena. His elite warriors. Gone. His army. Gone. And what now, Terran? He rasped. Rourke walked closer. Now? He stabbed the final blade, not into Tavkor's chest, but into the ground between them. You go back up there, and you tell them the trial is over. You tell them Earth stays free. Or I finish what I started. For a long moment, no one moved. Then Tavkor fell to one knee, not in submission, but in defeat. You are not like the others. Rourke wiped the blood from his eyes. No. We never were. Minutes later, the horn sounded for the final time. Inside the observation chamber, the Concorde's high envoy stood in stunned silence. Monitors replayed every frame. Rourke walking through smoke. Bodies burning in the distance. A lone human, surrounded by silence. Earth's representative, a gray-haired woman in a crisp navy uniform, leaned into her mic. Let the record show, humanity was tested. She looked at them all, Krell, Vec, Tharn, Lithid, and smiled. And humanity endured. As the transport doors closed behind him, Rourke slumped onto the metal floor, finally allowing the weight to hit. His hands trembled. Valkyrie, he whispered. Status. Valkyrie. You're alive. For now. Recommend immediate extraction and vodka. He chuckled weakly. Put on something soft. Now playing, somewhere only we know. Above the bloodstained pit, beneath the swirling storm, the song echoed gently as the shuttle rose. The trial was over. But the war for respect had just begun.